Hey, boo.
Hi, my love. Oh, you look fabulous, girl.
Thank you. I'm gonna be deep
Um,
conditioning my hair for the rest of the year. You hear me?
look, these ends are terrible, okay? So I'm so excited to have you. And um, I just want everyone to, I guess, go ahead and introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are, what you do, and what you're about.
Okay. Well, I'm Carla. I am a master esthetician. I'm a mom. I'm a woman. I'm a lover of all things that are just God, nature. I'm a lifelong student, and essentially, I don't know. I feel like there's so much more that I have. Like I do bass guitar, calligraphy, but more importantly, I'm a human being seeking knowledge and what this life is all about, like everybody else. So, yeah.
You basically call yourself, you're working on self-mastery, right? So you're constantly learning. And for me, I say I'm a forever student. And there's something humbling about that. And so why I decided to have this during this time with you, especially, is when I need spiritual guidance. I always seek to you when I need some healing or some techniques and tools that I need so that I can get myself to a place where I'm grounding myself. So I'm talking about this conversation for the next 30 minutes is how do we ground ourselves during COVID-19? And I call you my spiritual sister um, because you're number one, you're older than me. You're so much
Not
more
that much.
wiser, and you've had this life of spirituality. You've been about it for decades. And when I talk about spirituality, it's not in any way religious, right? It's being authentic to your highest self, and
Yes.
that is constantly evolving. So no matter what's happening in the physical world, we'll always be whole, right? That's what, essentially being in tune with your highest self. um, And what does COVID-19 do? So it sets up the environment for us to hone in into that. And how do we become more intuitive? Because especially when we realize that the earth, right? And we should be a part of the ecosystem, but we don't treat it as such. We're removing ourselves and we're treating it that we are above all things. And so that's our issue. So how does COVID-19 affect us where it brings us to ourself again?
Well, I mean, it's simple. It's a reset. Everybody's been put in their respective corners. I know a joke about it, but it's real. It's like we are forced to see what's really important and get a chance to look at yourself. No distractions, while the earth is healing. And the word healing means wholeness. So we're always on that path of meeting ourselves, of what wholeness looks like in this decade for us versus what it looked like for us 10 years ago. Um, Grounding yourself at this time is really important because it's literally just the beginning of the helm of change. And that's one thing that's constant on this earth is change. So once we subscribe to understanding that, we are less attached to things that don't really have importance or just fleeting, you know. The root chakra, I know you wanted to talk about that. That's really a main focus. Hence why I'm wearing red. I don't know if you can see it, but red is the color of the root chakra, because it's basically the basis of where we need to focus on what's important. And when you don't feel stable, when you don't feel safe, when you don't feel comforted, we're out of balance. And we've been out of balance as a community as a whole for a very long time. And so when everything stops, this is just a representation. I take things symbolic. I hate this word, but it's also symbolic of what we're experiencing physically,
Right.
and we're having to assess where we are, as a people spiritually. So, yeah, let me take a
So
sip
when
real
you
quick.
say we're unbalanced, right? Because we're essentially unbalanced. How do you know that you're unbalanced? Because we live our life day to day, and sometimes we're on autopilot. We're waking up in the morning, we're making our coffee, we're brushing our teeth, doing our hair, then getting into our car, being stuck in traffic, going to work, and doing it all over again, right? So we're constantly on autopilot, and this stops all of that.
Yeah.
So how do you know that you went from being really unbalanced to how do you get yourself to becoming balanced again and getting yourself aligned?
Well, first I had to assess what does it look like to be balanced and see what the antithesis is of that. So for example, if you're balanced, you feel supported, you feel grounded, you feel safe in your body. Like that's the kicker. You got to feel safe in your body. It's not about the outside influences. It's about in. When you're unbalanced, you have problems in your legs, your feet, your tailbone, and guess what? Your immune system. The root chakra deals with all of that. And whether you subscribe to root chakra or whatever you want to name it, it is the place where you represent, hey DJ, my favorite DJ producer. But it basically allows you to see where you're not stable. So there's 3 categories of the root chakra that you want to look at. So we talked about the unbalanced. The balance is you feel sensible, you feel stable. But here's the other part we forget. The overactive chakra, the root chakra, which is you're greedy, you're materialistic, you're bored. Yes. And so when you see that show up in your life, it's prevalent first in our bodies. First is, and that's where you need to assess, because if all this is out of here, we came here and, naked and alone, we're going to leave that way. So feeling what you feel in your body, being able to assess what's going on inside is going to help you to project then what tools you might need for the outer portion, but everything is within. So those are the 3 aspects specifically, looking at balanced, unbalanced, and then overactive. And then 2, there is underactive, where you're always fearful or distrusting. I
was there for a long, long time, and it took a lot to work on, and still a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a constant because we live in this world of duality. Not everything is unicorn farts and baby bubbles, but those challenges help us to grow and be conditioned to be our best authentic selves, whatever that looks like. Right now, what we're dealing with is helping us to deal with the real. And it's good to be real with yourself first, because we have nobody to be accountable for but ourselves first. They always say put the gas mask on you before anybody else. And so those areas I look within, for me personally, to see about where I'm balanced, imbalanced. But what I've done to go through the process, I got to feel it. And forgive me, I'm tongue-tied because there's so much information, but I had to feel those emotions. I had to feel the pain. I had to feel the depression. I had to feel where I was like unsupported. So then I can also see where's the lie, where I can also see where that wasn't true in my life. And then I looked at other tools.
When you're not being authentic, right? And it's hard because you don't ever want to say that you're full of shit. And it's not necessarily that you're full of shit, but we cover ourselves with white lies because it prevents us from feeling all that pain, all that hurt. People who are always angry or mean, it's because they have feelings and they're sensitive and they don't want people to tap into that. So for them to be tough, is this outer shell that they put out there isn't being true to themselves. And so when we say, how do you become more authentic? How do you truly allow yourself to feel those feelings? Because we've gone on for so long pretending, right?
You gotta see yourself. Like, I do mirror work all the time, like looking in the mirror with intent and seeing, okay, see yourself, see your flaws, see yourself for how you see yourself, then match up what God sees you as, whatever your God is, something higher than you. Because there's always one thing that tells you, okay, you're projecting your face this way, but your inner voice is telling you something different. Right. Really just be honest. Like, that's the other thing. We're not honest. We're not honest. Yeah. And hold on, I'll follow you. I'll do the request and follow after this live. But hey, from Malaysia. But be honest, face yourself, be real, look at where you are, and not in the physical sense, like, oh, I'm not, making this much money. No, look at where you are in your happiness and your ability to assess where you are. Are you content in life? Like, if tomorrow ends, how do you feel right now? Right. The physical things I had to do for that was dance, you know, a couple of Bobby Brown, every little step I take, pelvic thrust.
Hey.
Life, you know, do some pelvic thrust, you know, release energy, you know, out of your body, because we're made for input output. And that's the issue, is that we hold a lot of these emotions and they get stored, and they have to come out at some point. And so we're not aware until
energy storage, right? Because you're talking about energy storage, and so people do that. And when people say, you know, when you're stressed out, that causes heart attacks, and you know, you have all these health issues, it's because it's energy, and it's energy that ends up putting itself in certain parts of your body. And like you said, it needs to get extracted, and somehow it will, but it's not going to be to our benefit. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be sitting at the hospital feeling sick and all these things. And so how do you come back to setting, because you said COVID-19 is helping us start a reset. So how do we reset and release that energy that is within us that's not healthy?
Go back to basics, you know, be a child again. If you have children, watch them and see how they deal with things. Like, for example, a lot of us hold anger because we're adults and we think it's not natural and it's not healthy to display it, because we haven't been taught healthy ways to display anger. So I do things like go stomp, you know, go on the floor, have a tantrum, you know, be stupid, kick, scream, you know, break some shit that you don't need, but break something and just let it go. You know, go in your car, you know, if you're not under restriction or whatever. You know, I go somewhere like a certain field that I know nobody's on, make sure the windows are rolled up. I play some real loud like rock music, and I just fucking scream. You know, scream, because there's even traumas and things and pain that you don't even know that you might be holding that you had at 7. You know, you still might be mad at somebody who took your popsicle, and then something triggers it, and you're not even sure where this anger is from. And people are thinking, oh, it's this virus. No, it's deeper than that.
It's deeper. This is allowing all of that to be released, because we had no other time to do that. And this is the time to release that.
Yeah, but also too, it's a time to make sure
unhealthy way of releasing those energies.
Yes. The healthiest way is just to be like, for example, movement is helpful. Like, I know we're getting all these immune system, you know, tips and everything. That's great. Movement is necessary, because all of these things that we're doing, it has to align with what we're physically, like, we're putting in all this knowledge, but we have to physically impart that too and embody that. So movement is helpful. Actually, house cleaning. Funny thing, house cleaning is therapeutic, and it helps the root chakra because it makes you aware. Like, you're physically thinking, okay, while you might not think it's chemistry, it is when you're dealing with products. So your mind shuts off into a way where it's thinking, okay, if I'm smelling this, I'm processing this, I'm cleaning this. It's something that happens, you know, I don't know the scientific terms for it, but there is something that happens neurologically to your brain when you do certain things. You can enact certain things, so your mind is aware and physically in the moment. You know, we're lucky to be honest with you. We're lucky that we're literally just being sent to our respective rooms to do some work, so people don't get to see on a mass scale the ugly, because this could be really ugly for a lot of us if we're not honest and we just let it fester. You know, so this is
my other question is, because you are talking about, you know, it's good to clean, it's good to keep yourself busy. I don't want to say that's busy, because that you're saying that we could still hone into balancing our root chakra by doing some house cleaning, because it's I guess in a way it's meditative, because it's focused on that very moment, because we tend to be doing one thing but thinking of a million other things, right? And so now that COVID-19 has happened, is it better for us to keep ourselves really busy, or should we just take a moment and pause?
Well, of course, you got to be balanced in it. Like, I like to call it inspired action. And forgive me, I have my awesome diffuser going on at the same time. So inspired action means, okay, I'm not just going to do something just to be doing it. Like, if you're cleaning, physically take a moment and stop and be like, my hand is on the sponge. And look and see what that feels like. Like, take a minute and be like, I'm really, like, how dope that is. I'm miraculously cleaning and moving these items with just my thought, and moving that to my hand to move. When we think more in that sense, it sounds primitive, but hey, Rich, it's intent. When you enact yourself and say, I'm going to do this, and then you stay in that moment and you see yourself doing it, it shifts something to where you're actually focused on the present moment. Hey, sweetheart, busyness is different from inspired action and productivity. Like you got to be real and say, okay, is this actually going to serve me right now if I'm just physically doing something to put my brain on autopilot? There's nothing wrong with that. But the balance is that this is an opportunity to get the rest that you need, because this is about to be a shift in energies with the sun. We're coming into summer. Usually we all pumped up. We're ready to go. We have a lot of energy. And so this is a good time where we're actually going to show up differently in summer, or whenever this situation blows over, that we come and show our best version of ourselves and be clear on where we're needing some assistance in our alignment, in our lives, everything. Every area is being examined now. And how dope is it really an opportunity to do that in our homes without somebody.
You will never have this opportunity again, right? So it's like, be intentional with this time. And so how can someone say, I want to be intentional with this time? Where do I start? So what are some tools that people can use so that they can align, balance, or realize that their root chakra is overactive, underactive, or balanced? Like once they kind of assess where they are there, what are the tools that they can use? So it's like, one thing that you said was cleaning the house, but also being intentional when you're cleaning. So you're being thoughtful about that very moment, what things that you're touching and what you're currently doing at that moment, and not thinking about, anything else outside of what you're doing. So that's one. What are other things that we can do? Because I remember when I called you, I was like, I'm about to have a baby. I'm at the crystal store. What crystals do I need to buy? Like, can you use crystals? What? And you showed me what I needed to do when I purchased my crystals. Like, that's another thing. So what are some things that we can do,
Well, first of all, I don't want to go too deep into like physical tools, because a lot of times that's a part of our distraction. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the main part for this particular season is for us to recognize self-mastery starts with what we already have. And so for physical tool, sure, like I'm going to be doing some calligraphy later, right? Journaling is great. Wearing red. The color red is symbolic of the root chakra, and also too, color therapy helps. Like I said, it's something that helps to ignite your mind. Okay, I see this color. I think whatever is associated with that, fire, energy, movement, things of that nature. And so really just once you figure out where you're imbalanced, overactive, underactive, whatever, the first thing is just don't judge it. Acknowledgement is part of the healing process. A lot of people walking around don't want to acknowledge where they are. That's a detriment more than it is to say, okay, I recognize that this is not in balance. So once you get there, honestly, the root chakra for me reminds me to be in a childlike state. Go back to the basics. Go have fun. Be fun, be light. You're in your house. Let's do some board games. If it's just yourself, be creative. Tap into the things that you used to do as a child that you haven't had the time, energy, space to do. And don't judge yourself for it. Even if it's just to sleep, like
it's hard, right? It's hard because we constantly judge ourselves. And because we judge ourselves, we avoid doing the things that we love, right? Because we're like, oh, we're not good enough, so I'm going to stay away from doing it. But now we have all the time in the world, and it's forcing you to just do it. Just let all of that go. And so how do you tell yourself, or that second voice that you have in your head, to just shut up? Because, that voice is always going. It's never off. So how do you just like keep it from talking to you, or how do you tune out of it, right?
You don't keep it from talking to you. You allow the voice that is most resonating with you to be the strongest. And eventually the other one will die out. So you do physical things that you can do. There's certain, binaural beats. There's music that you can listen to help your subconscious mind tune into whatever frequency you're trying to tune into. That's a whole nother conversation. But writing does a lot. like seeing your feelings and thoughts in black and white. You know, when I'm angry and I do feel the ability to write, because sometimes I'm angry and I don't feel like writing. When I do, sometimes I just scribble. You know, it's not always words. It's not always formality, you know, and if you can't actualize what to do, just be. At the end of the day, we're human beings, and we forgot to be in a state of being, even if that means doing nothing. Sometimes there's so much of something in doing nothing. Dr. Joseph Murray said, sleep brings counsel. And I didn't recognize that until I utilized it. Like sometimes you just get so mad or so full with life, you can't do nothing but sleep. And when you sleep, it's like a reset. You don't have those same thoughts. You don't have that same anxiety. But you have to wake up with the mentality of, I'm going to wake up refreshed. I'm going to wake up renewed and not have the same sense of what I picked up or dropped off rather, and pick it up again. That's going to, not serve me. So the tool is you. The tool is to tune into yourself. Everything else, like all these things, my diffuser, my candles, all that stuff is actual fluff, because it's supposed to just help me to remember that I am the tool. And at any point when seasons change, I have to be the one that's flexible with it, because these tangible items may not always be at my disposal. But the first thing I can tap into is me and what's in here and what I know is true. So grounding yourself, hey, Heather, grounding yourself with the very simple things, dance, writing, the color red, I think I talked about. If you can get outside, grounding with your bare feet in grass is a blessing. It's a good thing to do.
All the time. Look how green this grass is.
I know, it's beautiful. And then
I'm gonna come outside and ground myself.
You should, yes. Take your shoes off and then look at life in this perspective. Don't allow fear to be paralyzing. Allow it to be polarizing. Because when you have fear, your adrenals lock up, your blood starts pumping faster, and you don't have the ability to really critically think for yourself. You literally become frozen and allowing the power of whatever is causing the fear to overtake you, whether it's real or not. So just being more aware of your body. This is literally helping us be aware of what's inside your body. All that other stuff is fluff. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. No, this was awesome. It was very informative. I definitely have so much to take away from it. And I hope that everyone who was able to tune in and out, because this is going to be running for another 24 hours, so they can go back and watch it, to really talk about how we can just ground ourselves. And you have so much power in the knowledge that you share. It's incredible. And we could really go into a really, like you said, a rabbit hole of talking about the root chakra and all the tools that you can do and have to do it. But again, it comes down to you, yourself. And that's all you really need, because all this physical world you're not taking it with you.
No, and don't forget, like literally when Denzel Washington said, you never see a U-Haul truck behind a hearse, that hit me. I was like, for real? That's real. Yeah. So understanding the tangible items are just an extension of you. They're not all you. The main part, if nothing else is taken from this whole IG live, which I know I never do, but fear is paralyzing. Allow it to be polarizing, because when that is in your life, it doesn't matter what anything is going on with you. It doesn't matter what healing modalities you have. If you have fear, love can't come in. And love is the greatest power on this planet. So
we weren't born with any fear. It's like my son, right? He fell off the bed, right? And then he was trying to go climb on the edge again and do it again. And I'm just like, we're born without it, essentially. And so it's life. As we live life, we build barriers. And as I get older, I realize we need to knock those down.
Yeah. Accept that they're there, because a lot of us too, we don't forgive ourselves for letting those barriers be there. It's literally our perception. Once we recognize, okay, I've allowed this barrier to be there, literally it crumbles down and it's gone. Like it's that simple, but we put so much more emphasis into the ritual behind all of that. And it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. Just allowing yourself to, if you're just check in, is my body in a state of love? Period. And if it's not, then it's going to be more susceptible to anything that's going to harm it. It's just that way,
Yes.
Fear is something that's taught, like you said, your baby doesn't know anything except what we teach and what he's gathered. And so it's a perfect opportunity to tune into facing our fears. Let's face the shit. What is the thing that you're most scared of? And then look at the worst case scenario and recognize that half of those worst case scenarios don't happen, because that's what they are, scenarios. So
Right.
You're able to see it, whether you write it in black and white, whether you verbalize it and face those fears, you'll recognize that some of them may be major fears. And I'm not saying fear is not warranted, but if it's not directly a threat in your face right at the moment, assess how much energy you're putting into it and see if that's worth it. If you can feel comfortable sleeping at night, knowing that you put so much energy into something that doesn't have any power or weight over you at the moment.
No, you're definitely right. Bridget and Brian's up here. They're so
Hey,
cute.
B, conversation, B. Look at my boo. He's cute. Thank you, Chris.
But girl, you are incredible. I know that you also, you're I was going to say a master esthetician. You're an amazing 5-star esthetician, and you heal people simply by touching them, And unfortunately, we're not in a place where we're going to be touching each other. But
no.
How can people find you so that they can follow you? Because they want to check out all the knowledge that you have, and maybe if they're in Maryland, they can come get healed. So
here's the thing: I don't heal people. I simply agree with the healing that they want for themselves. So I'm just there to witness it. My Instagram for my business is Carla's Sugar. So it's possessive, as I like to say. It's Carla's with a C, and then sugar spelled correctly. And then I also have a website. Love you too, Chris. carlassugar.com, carlassugar.com. And then let's see. This is my personal page, a Phoenix_Skin Diva. And I'll be doing some rebranding and revamping. So I may have some other social media contacts and all that. And I'll let you know about that. But yes, everybody's a healer. I am simply a part of your own personal healing process when you come into my space for whatever services that I'm providing. So I want to make sure people know we are all self-masters. We're all masters. It matters how much you tap into your own self-mastery so you can walk on this earth and solve at least one problem. And I think if we all are able to solve at least one problem, change is imminent. So we're all our own master healers. I love you.
I love you too, honey. Thank you so much for your time. And tell my baby girl I said hi. And I can't wait till this is over so I can give you a hug.
I know, virtual hugs from afar.
All right, Mama. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Bye. Thanks, guys.